Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Cody Underground, also these days known as Trading with Cody Live Q&A Chat. Go to tradingwithcody.com to sign up to see all of my trade alerts anytime I buy or sell stock and occasionally an option. I see all my positions. And tell you what, we've actually had a heck of a year so far. Sent out a note yesterday that talked about the fact. Let me just pull that up, actually. That's a good note. The computer's right there. So I might disappear from the camera on occasion here, but, so far just in this earnings season, we have had 94% of our longs posted inline or beats, 82% beat on the revenue. 100% of our shorts missed their revenue estimates. And just in the earnings season, we're up 13% on our longs, and our shorts have fallen 17% on average just in the earnings season. Of course, we've had some great stock picks over the years. Apple, 2003 at $1, Google, the day it came public, and more recently Facebook at 20 or so, and Axogen at 4. Where is it now today? About 27. Knock on wood, we've had a great run, and I expect to continue to have one. Go to tradingwithcody.com and check it out. So most of my subscribers report being up more than 50% in their own portfolio this year. I did a survey the other day, and most of my long-term subscribers report that their portfolios have tripled or more in the last 5 or 6 years. They've been around since 2011. Some of them are up perhaps even more than that. No promises, no guarantees. It's hard work. I do every day. I never rest on my laurels, I'll tell you that much. Let's talk a little bit about the markets. And you can't talk about the markets these days without talking politics too. The biggest news right now around the market, at least when you talk and listen to the pundits, is that the Republican Senate/Congress tax bill that Trump has spearheaded, perhaps is the right word. Let's just stepping back. I mean, the fact is that this is more continuation of what I have seen in my lifetime forever, whether it's Republicans or Democrats, whether it's Obamacare or this Trump Republican tax bill, whether it's the bailouts under Bush and then continued and much bigger bailouts under Obama for the giant banks. The general thrust of our government is to protect and enrich giant corporations. The giant corporations fund the campaigns for both Republicans and Democrats, and you can't change human nature. And so as long as giant corporations are funding Republicans and Democrats, that will be the trend. How would this change? And the Trump Republican, I'm going to call it Trump Republican Democrat regime tax bill, the latest one, is just further continuation of exactly that policy, that concept, that trend. And it's going to be good for corporations. It's going to be good for the stock market. It has been good for the stock market. Longer term, giant corporations, which don't pay 35% tax, don't kid yourself, it's probably closer to 10 or 15% right now, that the effective tax rate of corporations are, and that'll be even lower. They'll bring many more trillions of dollars of money that are the multinationals that have trillions of dollars stashed overseas. Will bring that money back. And that money will be brought back mostly tax-free. loopholes that they've written on the side of this incredibly loophole-ridden tax bill. But let's keep one thing that really does just drive me crazy is for someone to say that this is somehow simplifying the tax code. This is not. This bill does not simplify anything. It's got crap written on the side, on the margins in handwriting. It's got pages upon thousands of pages that refer to bills from 60, 70 years ago. That changes one word in that bill, in one paragraph of that bill. That is by no means simplification. So what this is you'll see a continued hollowing out of rural and middle class and inner city economies. And you will see a further, what do you call it, when the wealth gap increasing, and middle class in general will have, and lower class, under, what do you call it, poorer people, let's not call it lower class, middle class and poor people will have not just less benefits, but less take home. And look, you got to own stocks. That's one of the reasons I'm so bullish on the stock market is, and I think that we are living in a bubble blowing bull market is because of these concepts. I mean, politically, I fight them. Financially, I ride them. So Apple's tax rate will go lower. They'll be able to bring over $1 trillion from, or 150 billion or 200 billion, whatever that number is that they have stashed overseas. And meanwhile, they're going to use our court systems, our roads, etc. Stock market will benefit from this, so everybody will be able to say, hey, the economy's doing great. And frankly, the economy is doing great. I mean, relatively speaking, it's a boom time, as I've been saying for the last 7 or 8 years. That's a reality too, and we can't deny that. That's one of the things that you'll see so many hedge fund managers do over the last 5 or 10 years is deny the reality of the strong economy. Right now, it is a strong cycle, and there's nothing disrupting that cycle. Let's talk near-term stock market. So I think we're having a sell the news kind of reaction to that passing of the tax bill. The markets have priced in that tax bill for months. Every day you listen to the pundits on CNBC or Fox Business, or you read it on Market Watch, how the market is anticipating that there's going to be lower taxes going ahead. And that's been going on for months, and that becomes reality. And it does price that in. And so I do think we're having a bit of a sell the news reaction. Will it be a crash? Probably not. Maybe a 5 or 10% pullback, which probably would be healthy. Boy, it'd be great to hear some people freaking out about the stock market for once, wouldn't it? Besides the ever perma-bearish hedge fund guys who've been bearish for the last 7 years. So that'll, I guess that's that. What else did I say I was going to mention? That's stock market, Trump, Bitcoin. One of my partners, Ross Mark, produced the Tonight Show for 20 years. That has nothing to do with the fact that what I'm about to tell you is that, I gave him free subscription Trading with Cody, and he reads it. And he is about as sick of hearing about Bitcoin as I have been for the last 3 months. And I get a lot of questions about Bitcoin. So it is what it is. I talk about it because everybody's talking about it and we should address it. So here's the story. Let me give you a little background. One Trading with Cody subscribers know this. I accepted Bitcoin as payment on Trading with Cody, and I invested in some back when it was $100, around $100, maybe $200. I started buying a little more. I took payments when it was 1 month, 1 Bitcoin for 1 month of Trading with Cody. That was, he charged $99 a month. Now those Bitcoins I received, fortunately I sold some of them at 2,800, but still own a couple Bitcoins. It's not a very big position for me, but I'm probably going to sell almost all of them at 13,000 here, looking at it today, almost at $13,000 of Bitcoin. I heard Alan Greenspan on CNBC this morning when I was driving into work, and he was talking about Bitcoin, and it sounded to me like he had it confused as a fiat currency. He thinks it's a fiat currency. He doesn't understand that how the supply of Bitcoin has been limited based on mining and ever more complicated mathematical equations that must be solved and other blockchain phenomena, plural, that it is not a free fiat currency, man. Alan, Dr. Greenspan, the man who thought the banks would regulate themselves to the point where, well, and it doesn't even make sense. The banks are regulated all the time, and they get trillions of dollars of welfare. So to say the banks are deregulated or can regulate themselves doesn't even make sense in the context of what the reality of today's economy and what the banking system is today. But beyond that, the guy does not understand what a Bitcoin is, apparently. Doesn't understand the whole concept that it is a counter measure to a fiat currency like the US dollar that is government controlled, that can be printed more of endlessly. So just, I don't know, maybe I misunderstood him, but I listened to him talk. He talked about it for 5 or 10 minutes, and I didn't make any sense. I didn't understand anything he said. And by the way, he said Bitcoin was worthless. He said it has to have a value of plus or zero. It can't have a negative value, but you can't create value in an exchange, a currency exchange out of nothing. And it's, again, he doesn't even understand that Satoshi Nakamoto, the guy who created this thing, it's probably a conglomeration of 4 or 5 different Japanese company names like Toyota and Kawasaki and whatever. Google it, you'll see it. There's no central control of blockchain and Bitcoin. That's the whole point, Alan Greenspan. I'm going to have to find an article I wrote several years ago where I took every quote that Alan Greenspan said that was incredibly wrong in historical context when you looked back. And I mean, even just the euphoria thing of 1996, right before the bubble truly that he created with 0% rates back in 98, 99, the dot-com bubble that he helped create and fuel, which, let's bring this all back home. So going back to the Trump tax policies and even the Greenspan and central bank policies of my lifetime, I've seen them go from 15% central bank rates down to 0, and we're still there. And that benefits giant corporations and banks. And people will say that higher rates will benefit the banks. Hey, man, bank earnings are at all-time highs right now with rates at 0. And bank rate earnings have been going up during the entire cycle that rates have been going down from 15% to 0. And the fact that we can borrow trillions of dollars at 0% enables the Republican Democrat regime to continually grow the debt of this country that you, your children, your grandchildren will someday either have to default on, recapitalize, or pay back, or continue to float. And it's great when we can, the government and people can borrow money at almost 0% for now. If a bank could lend you $1 trillion right now and you go spend it, that's what the government does. And you can only keep lowering rates as long as the near 0% rate interest rates are here. So it enables this cycle even further. These things get to be vicious feeding upon themselves, or virtuous feeding upon themselves, depending upon your perspective. So, am I a libertarian or am I liberal? don't know. Some of my friends think I'm libertarian. Some think I'm liberal, and I'm a little bit of both. I'm free thinking. I hope you are too. Let's have some questions from the crowd. Anybody on the phone can ask a question. I'll invite people on the app to ask questions. Here's, speaking of Ross the Boss, my partner Ross.
It's such an honor to talk to you, Mr. Willard. How are you?
It's
so nice to see your face.
It's great to see you, Roscoe. How are you?
I was talking to this big financial analyst named Chris Meyer. Have you heard of him? Chris Meyer. He's a financial guy. He's in Boston. Yeah,
movie producer too. Remember, I got paying customers.
That's fine.
To me, Roscoe.
So
what do you got
to
here?
go back to Bitcoin, I know you hate to talk about it, but thanks for doing it. Do you think there's like a future in more of these coins popping up all over the place and taking the lead what Bitcoin did, or do you think it's just I know there's Litecoin, I know there's other coins out there, but do you think other people are going to follow this trend?
Yeah.
I mean, should we have currency for different things around the world comparing to Bitcoin, or is it a safe bet or not? What's your thoughts?
Look, I will say, as far as should goes, I'm much more libertarian than anything else when it comes to currencies. And so I believe in freedom. I've talked about that for 10 years back on my show. I used to talk about how maybe we should have a Warren Buffett backed currency and a Cody Willard backed currency and a GE backed currency. And that someone came up with this incredibly more revolutionary concept of cryptocurrency. And it's great. I think there is a place for cryptocurrency. I believe it is real. I believe it is in a bubble right now. I believe it will probably be below 5,000 at some point in the next few months, and maybe below 1,000 when all this stuff sort of gets wiped out, which leads me to the next part of your question. I think Ripple, Litecoin, Ethereum, and Bitcoin are the four that are most likely to succeed, most likely to be an Amazon, while most of the other coins are pets.com. In other words, they'll go to zero. I think most cryptocurrencies are a scam, a fraud. You shouldn't touch them. But, and frankly, I don't think you should buy Bitcoins right now either. I don't know that you should ever even really invest in them. But in 5 or 10 years, I do believe we will be using cryptocurrencies of some sort, probably Bitcoin, maybe one or two others. And they will, a lot of trillions of dollars of transactions and tracking and changes in the economy will happen because of blockchain, the technology underlying Bitcoin. Any questions on the call? Can I hear you guys? Anybody on there? Any other questions from app users? I got a bunch in the chat room too, and by email I'll hop on. All right, here's a question. Hold on, got it. There it is. Question. Cody, I might not be able to make it, so here I'm emailing you. On your prices at which I would nibble table, outlining at the stocks that I own right now and the stocks I'm short right now at Trading with Cody, and the range at which I would add more. Well, I guess add more, whether I'd short more or buy more. Some of them I just said hold tight, regardless. I wasn't looking to buy more or short more, either one. But anyway, he says, on that table, it seems that only Palo Alto and Intel are in the, quote, nibble range that I put up there. And everything else is still above my pullback levels. So are there any longs or shorts that I would say are a 9 rated stock right now? You know what I'm actually thinking that is spurred by a Trading with Cody conversation in the Trading with Cody chat room there yesterday that might be a great trade. And I'm probably moving up to a 9 rated right now. Contrarian wise. Put on your contrarian hat for this one. Gold. Gold, baby. I think gold might be about to pop. It's at 3 or 4 year lows right now. I've been talking about for 2 or 3 years that it's potential, this concept that Bitcoin as an alternative to gold could actually create a demand a lack of demand in gold for a while. And that is probably still a longer term trend that cryptocurrencies and gold will compete on some level as a store of currency outside of the fiat currency market. But the idea right now that is just that everybody hates gold. Everybody's got onto this concept that cryptocurrencies are an alternative to gold. You read it everywhere. And with Bitcoin going up 1,300% or whatever it is in the last 6 months, and what is it, 13,000% since I had some at 100. That it looks hugely bubbled, and that this cycle has probably got to have some at least return to normalcy. And I think gold right now might be a great trade, frankly, 3 to 6 months wise. In my lifetime, I do think gold will also be the entire market of gold. Probably it'll get readjusted versus the currencies of the world, the fiat currencies of the world, and it will retain value. It'll be worth $5,000 or $10,000 an ounce before I'm dead. Gold will, but that's hopefully another 50 to 100 years. At any rate, stock-wise, I like Palo Alto right now. I like Intel right now. Verizon, I think, is a great 5G play. Some of my stocks that are up 500% since we bought them, 300%. I'm not chasing. I don't think they're very good buys right now, and I would wait for another 5 or 10% pullback and maybe some market panic at some point in the next few months, if and when it ever happens, to add some of those. If you don't own any of my Trading with Cody stocks, and you're a Trading with Cody subscriber already, go to the latest positions, take a look at them, which actually, by the way, leads me to the next question. 9 or 10, whether they're a 9 or 10 rated stock. I love this. I don't love anything in my portfolio, but my analysis points that there's still some great buys, and I would sell the stocks in my portfolio if I didn't think they were still great positions to hold on to. And I did let go of 2 stocks yesterday, by the way. I'm trying to reduce the number of my positions a little bit. I've had a heck of a long run. Here's this question I was about to actually answer, and I'm just going to read the question, and then I'm actually going to read the answer that I wrote the guy, pretend I'm on TV. Don't have a teleprompter, though. Cody, I am new here at Trading with Cody and just trying to get going with your investing ideas. I was looking at your email sent 11/17 on your positions and which positions you'd buy, hold, or sell. See, it was about the same thing, that table. I'll keep doing those tables. I think you guys like them. Trading with Cody subscribers I'm talking about. If you were me, would you buy anything now or just wait until your new alerts, your new trade alerts, each one comes out to start building my Trading with Cody portfolio? So my answer was, hey, that's a better angle. My answer was, thanks for joining and thanks for the question. I'm going to update that where I buy more table this week for all of these subscribers, and I tell them that. But here's the thing. If you're new to Trading with Cody, or you've been a subscriber for a while and you haven't actually acted on many of my strategies, but you're sick of those incredibly low interest rates, well, the markets keep hitting all-time highs. By the way, I wrote this like 5 years ago, and the same thing is true today. Before you make any trade, you need to step back and catch your breath. Don't move any money anywhere until you just stop. Don't be in a rush. Don't think there's a get-rich-quick scheme. This isn't what I wrote, but same thing. There isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. You've got to work hard. You got to be smart. Rank every position in your portfolio, your whole portfolio, real estate, stocks. Get an idea of how you're balanced. Rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. If you haven't read Everything You Need to Know About Investing, a book that I wrote, it's available on Amazon. But if you want it for free, I'll send you the PDF. Just email support@Trading with Cody. Anybody out there listening, I send that book to free to anybody. If you haven't read it, read it. It's a quick read, but it is if I do say so myself, chock full of important ideas, concepts, and strategies that amateurs and pros alike should fully understand and know about and think about before they invest in stocks at all. Then take a look at my Trading with Cody latest positions and look at the highest rated ones. Maybe nibble a little bit at them. You don't have to buy a full position. That's what I'm trying to get to. If you have $100,000 or $10 million to put in the stock market because you had a great year, whatever that might mean for you, you don't have to buy everything tomorrow. Put 10% to work while the stock markets are at all-time highs. Find a couple of the names that are down. All right, I'll give you guys who are not Trading with Cody subscribers a name. Under Armour. How about that one? Things crashed. If you're a long-term investor in Under Armour, it might be a nice time to build a little bit in that one. You don't have to just chase stocks that are all-time highs. Diversify yourself. I mentioned Verizon. It's not a high flyer, pays a 5% dividend. Put a little bit in that. Put a little bit in some of the highest rated stocks in the Trading with Cody portfolio that you don't own yet. But don't think you have to do it all at once. And that's what the point of that is. I don't know. If you cannot get the live stream to work or you can't get it to be interactive and answer the questions, if you can't log into the app, I apologize. iOS 11 came out. We've got an update. Apple's improving it right now. That'll be in there. I think you guys will solve most of these problems. But hey, it's like Louis C.K., I guess, who you're not supposed to mention right now, and understandably so. But like he said, there's a great skit he did, I don't know, years ago on Letterman or something, where he talked about how he's on a plane. He's like sending emails and like as hurtling through the air, thousands of miles an hour. I'm live streaming on an app from an office in New Mexico, interacting with people on the I Am Cody Willard app. If it doesn't work perfect every time, well, it still bothers the heck out of me, but yes, it's not the end of the world. Here's a question. Speak more about Intel, Verizon, and 5G. Actually, this is the same guy that's asking the question in the chat room, popping in here to the app. Good morning, Sash.
Hey,
Good
yeah,
afternoon.
that was I got the live stream to work by hitting on the little people above there, and I didn't. I could open the app, but I didn't know what to hit for the live stream. But I got it going now, and I asked the question about Intel and Verizon and 5G, and I just want a little bit more, just your thoughts about how that's going to roll out and monetize these companies and kind of create a whole new bandwidth, So. And I bought some Intel, I bought some Verizon, and I'm just sort of, yeah.
Well, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, I added Intel. That's probably why you bought it. I put it in the portfolio about 9 months ago when it was at $33, $34 maybe a share. We've had a great rally in it already, but I think the thing could double from here or more over the next 2 to 5 years, in part because of 5G. Verizon, we added maybe 3 months ago as purely a reason as a great pure play on 5G. And here's the story with 5G beyond just those two stocks, and then I'll drill down to those two stocks a little more, is that 5G and the idea of taking this bandwidth that we are using right now to do this version of live streaming and multiplying it times 10. And what the apps and the applications inside of apps and the virtual reality and the chat room capabilities that we could have a holodeck in our living room that runs off of 5G and not DSL or cable is revolutionary. There will be new apps, new creative ideas, new ways of talking to my Amazon Echo devices and my Echo and my Google Home devices and the Apple Home devices and our smartphones that will be ever more connected to that cloud. And the idea of the smartphone and downloading apps and stuff to a smartphone, starts to fade away because it's always connected at such high bandwidth, and the size of the device keeps shrinking, and the fact that you can walk into a room and just tell the TV to pull up the channel on your smartphone, or grab the remote from the TV and watch a channel on your that's being broadcast from the internet onto the old tuner. Revolutionary stuff happening with and around 5G. And it's Verizon is just read a great report about how Europe isn't going nearly as aggressive in 5G as Verizon itself is. Verizon in the United States is much more aggressive than any other U.S. carrier, and no one in Europe's doing this right now. And the Verizon, though, is really aggressively investing in 5G towers, and they are, well, putting 5G modules on towers, existing towers, and they are getting so much better performance and distance, bandwidth, and reach on these 5G solutions that are putting up, that they think the ROI, return on investment, is going to be much more than what they'd expected already. And this is still very early on. Those prices will drop on that equipment and the back end of all of this. And it'll be a very different world with 5G 5 years from now. And Verizon and Intel are both very good ways of betting on that. Any questions on the phone here?
Yeah, this is Carl speaking. Keeping up with this topic of Verizon and 5G, I have maybe a naive question. Obviously, Verizon is extraordinarily capital intensive, so does that really limit their profit margins? And a subsequent follow-up would be, in 5G, do you see anybody else, let's say a smaller company, having a terrific outsized profit possibility?
Carl, great question.
I don't want to mention Qualcomm because you hate it.
That's right. And correct. So let me talk, I won't talk on Qualcomm, but let me talk the first part of your question about the CapEx and capital intensiveness of 5G. It's one of the other things that this very well written report I read was about, is that Verizon's not going to spend more to do 5G, but they're shifting spending to 5G much more aggressively than anyone else. And their network is already so well built out in the LTE 4G kind of world that the 5G is it's right for them to go ahead and sort of overlay their existing network with new 5G cells. And so as those prices come down, and as the reach of those cells, of each individual cell, is better than what they expected, they're actually not going to have to spend as much. They're not having to put 3 cells every 200 yards. It's 3 cells every 600 yards. And, those numbers are made up, but that's the concept, right? That in even urban areas, they're getting much more bandwidth, many more people on it, and it's going much further in distance than they expected. So might be cheaper than we expect, and that would be huge for us as Verizon investors if they actually can build this network cheaply, this 5G network.
Sure.
As far as other names, I've been talking to my favorite value investor, the best value investor I've ever known, and a mentor, friend, buddy of mine for many years, is Robert Marson. And I have been talking to him about 5G a little bit, and he sent me a name, a small cap name that I'm working on right now. I was actually supposed to be on a conference call with them last week, but I was in LA, so I didn't get to do it. But I'm going to have a call with when I buy a smaller cap company, say under $500 million market cap, even maybe a little less than that, but under a $250 million market cap or so, I always like to talk to the CEO if I'm going to buy the stock. And so I'm trying to set that up before I do the name, but I do have a potential small cap play on 5G. Stay tuned. As a Trading with Cody subscriber, you'll know. You'll be the first and only to know.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on the phone or on the app here? I think I've got another question or two in the chat room. Sudesh, you're not allowed to ask 2 questions, but all right. You need a different background, though. Where are you laying? Are you in a laundromat? You on a couch in a laundromat?
No, here, man.
There you go. Get us some
No,
art in the
I'll turn it
background.
around.
I saw some art. Give us something in the background.
There you go.
A laundromat.
Western Mass, man.
There you go. It was actually
Western Massachusetts,
oh,
man.
Now we're talking.
Beautiful.
Oh,
There,
that's
Amherst
beautiful
and
right now.
Northampton and the 5 colleges. It's gorgeous today. Nice and warm. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So, yeah, so I have just, you don't want me to ask a question? That's okay. That's all right. Well,
No,
I
please
wanted
do.
to, I'm getting the heads up from Robert about some small plays, but he wouldn't talk to me. He wouldn't really talk to me. I said, well, tell me some more about Calyx. He had a few, small plays.
Well, what do you expect, man?
But I couldn't quite understand. So I couldn't understand the. I wasn't trying to like get something from nothing, but I couldn't understand. He said, "Well, I'll give you leads. You got to do your own homework." But I said, "Okay, all right. I'll look into these things." But so anyhow, but there was a, there.
I'm gonna lose you, Sudesh. You're cut off. They only get 90 seconds. But look, I love the question. And look, that's Robert's not running a subscription service, right? I mean, he might be running other people's money right now. I think he might just be running his own money right now. But Robert Marson's a legendary, Barron's magazine cover kind of guy. I mean, he's so the fact that he even talks to you at all, frankly, is pretty cool. And he answers questions on Scutify. You go to scutify.com or download the Scutify app, and he's on there and he'll respond to people when you ask him questions on there. And he's great, but he is correct. He's just going to sort of throw out some of the names after he's bought them most of the time. And some of the times he doesn't put the name out there at all. If it's, a small, whatever. He doesn't tell everything. And I've got 15 years of an old boys network with this guy. I mean, I'm kidding, the old boys network, but Marson's a good buddy of mine. He's an irascible guy. So, again, if he was friendly to you, you should be thankful. I've seen him make grown men cry. Other questions in the chat room or on the app?
Okay, Gavin, can I ask a second question?
Please.
Sure. Okay, what is the prime driver for Intel? Is it the automobile business?
No. My idea for Intel, the reason I own Intel is much broader than that. I'm doing a meta thing right here. I'm going to YouTube/CL Willard to see if this live stream from my app is indeed feeding into my YouTube channel. And sure enough, it is live now. I'm watching myself live now. This is not about your Intel question. I'm sorry. I got distracted while you were talking. I thought it was sort of fascinating that I could watch. Let's see what the delay is. I'm doing a meta thing right here. I'm going to YouTube. See, that's the YouTube channel right now. See if this. That's crazy. I'm sort of blew my own mind on that one. What if you could watch yourself talk with other people on a phone from an app to a YouTube channel? People are thinking that, like they're smoking pot in downtown San Francisco, coming up with broadcast.com ideas in 1996. Here we are today, 22 years later, living the dream, folks. Sorry, Carl, let me answer your question. Intel, the biggest thing in some ways is exactly that. Number one, I think processing power and Intel chips, the old computer chip business, well, nobody's going to be buying computers anymore. I mean, we're all tablets, and I mean, it is a secularly declining market for what is considered a PC, a personal computer. But devices like Alexa, search YouTube. Oh, they don't do YouTube on Amazon, on Alexa anymore. Alexa, play. Let's see what I was listening to.
No messages from today. For earlier one.
Alexa, stop. That stuff's going to get better, partly because they're going to put many more Intel chips inside of stuff. Intel supplies the Amazon Alexa Echo. That is one of the reasons I bought it, because I believe that the Amazon Alexa Echo and the Echo Show specifically, which is what I'm talking to right there with the screen, these things are going to have, they're going to have so many more. Your TV is going to be an Amazon Alexa, essentially. It'll just be a much bigger version of the Amazon Alexa Show. And the TV itself will have the best Intel chips in them. And your projector set in your living room, where your car, when you're riding around in a driverless car, they're going to have a lot of processing power to get all of the new apps and features and cool things from 5G. Not only that, Intel spent 20% of their market cap buying Internet of Things competitors, rolling up competing semiconductor companies that specialize in IoT. And that is going to, looks like it is going to pay off for them. And that might have turned out to be a great bet. But, and then, driverless cars is a kicker. If Intel does, because I don't know that Intel's going to win or be big in driverless cars, frankly. That's the last reason I own the stock, ironically enough, since that was what your lead-in question was. Much more important to it is just the general trend of everywhere having so much more processing power on standby that Intel is probably a good play. And it's cheap. You got a nice dividend. Stock hasn't moved in 15, 20 years, and they might actually be back on a growth cycle because of this stuff. Driverless cars would be a kicker, gravy, the cherry on top.
But then, well, do you think NVIDIA has any play in that market that you're talking about?
Absolutely, absolutely. Though NVIDIA is winning and displacing Intel in the servers, but on the back end where these home devices are communicating into the cloud, and NVIDIA has clearly, set themselves up as the de facto standard for driverless systems. So, so exactly opposite of Intel, any penetration and meaningful revenue for NVIDIA that is a result of their chips being in TV sets and home devices and car entertainment systems and things would be gravy too for them.
Okay.
So
how long does this thesis play out on in the Intel thesis? Like another 2-3 years? It must be fast.
Frankly, if Intel does it all right and becomes, like they were in PCs, if they've got 50% of the market in IoT and then a much higher margin kind of processing power in home devices, it could be a 5 or 10 year thing. I mean, they could do 10, 20, 30% revenue growth at some point and do a few year run on that. That would, it would only happen if there's a strong enough broader economy, obviously, and, any crashes or tech panics and stuff in the meantime might even be a blip on that cycle. But over the next 5 or 10 years, I expect that there is sort of a secular growth phase for Intel if they play it out right.
So are you saying that they have no competitors?
No, NVIDIA and AMD and even just homemade chips, home design chips from Apple
Right.
or Amazon or Facebook. Or there's a million competitors for. There's very. It's a very competitive market. I'm saying the best case scenario is that Intel has a 5 or 10 year growth phase, secular growth cycle, long term thing happening here.
Right.
That sets them up for 20 years of at least bigger, higher magnitude of revenues than what we're talking about for them right now, 5 times bigger than they are right now. That would be best case scenario. There is also the scenario where they fail, where they lose to NVIDIA, where Amazon goes on its own with chips and Facebook cuts out Intel entirely, and there's no Intel chips in Apple because someone created a better chip cheaper, and next thing you know, Intel is cutting dividend, and it's the GE of 2022.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. I'm 45 minutes in here and I'm getting hungry. So I'll take one more question, either on the app or in the chat room. Let's see. I've got a few questions about individual stocks. Let's just do it. Let me look them up. Here we go. YEXT. Let's do it. I don't know the company. So let me do a quick Cody Willard Revolution Investing overview analysis of it. Yext stock. The name of the company must be Yext also. So let's go over here and just take a look at the balance sheet. Well, first market cap. It's $1 billion market cap, which is smallish cap these days, but not not a tiny cap, which if it's a small cap, most of the time it's a huge red flag to me. Like I said, unless I meet the CEO or something. Financials here. Must be a new IPO because I have no financials. Let's see when it came public. Oh, it should have financials. I'll have to define them. They're not in the system here, but the company's been public, it looks, for 6 months, since April. I don't know the company. I'm gonna do some work on it. It's obviously a new IPO, so I'll check it out. 40% revenue growth last quarter. That's not shabby. Oh, there we go. We got a quarter that just reported. $44 million in revenue last quarter, which is 40% year over year. Let's let's multiply that times 4, $160 million market cap. It's revenues. It's at $1 billion market cap, 8 times sales. Gross margin 74%, up from 70%. That's clearly a software-based, some kind of recurring revenue model system. Great, love 75% margins. Issues guidance of $47 million for next quarter, so sequential growth. Who knows if it's a Christmas bonus kind, fourth quarter stronger than the third quarter thing, but there's sequential growth in addition to last quarter being up 40% year over year. Let me take a look at it. It's interesting enough. I'll take a look. Do some work, trading with Cody subscribers. Stay tuned. I'll send out some analysis on it. Another one they're asking about is CALX. I've looked at it. That's a Robert Marson name. I'm working on it. It's an interesting enough. I'm working on it. Robert, anytime he suggests a name, I take a look at it. So there you go. Trading with Cody subscribers will also get an update on that one. I'll take a look at these other names that people are asking about, a couple of small cap biotech names that they've been asking me to check out. And I've got calls in to meet the management on one of them, and the other one I wasn't impressed with. And other than that, I think I'm hitting a wall. 50 minutes commercial free. without a co-anchor. Actually, speaking of which, Facebook Memories today said that had a picture of me and Rebecca Gomez Diamond hugging from the last show of Happy Hour, which means I do believe today is 7 years ago. Today was the last show of Happy Hour. Last time I was a full-time anchor on TV. Sort of seems like a lot longer ago than that, frankly. I don't think I miss it very much. It's an interesting, great experience. But you got to be wired to be, well, you got to be wired to be a Fox. I was on Fox too as an anchor. And, you know, like I spoke to a class at Eastern New Mexico University, Portales, yesterday over Skype. And politics came up and channels and things. And I said, look, cable news is propaganda. You've got Democrat side of the Republican Democrat regime propaganda, and you've got Republican propaganda from the other channel. And anybody who's tuned in obviously knows which ones I'm referring to as which. But I do remember in 2008 being at the Boston Tea Party, the original Boston Tea Party, when that thing was started. Fox sent me down there. And I actually did a thing where I asked a kid, a 10-year-old kid, I said, when you watch news, do you have any idea if the channel is Republican or Democrat? Which kind of propaganda do your parents watch at home? And I said, I don't know. I used to talk about how unfair it is that even on Fox, I would mock that Fox was Republican and they would want me to be Republican. And I would have had a much more fun time if I had just drank some Republican Kool-Aid. But I am neither a Republican or a Democrat, and I never will be, because I think the system's busted. I think the only way we fix it is for all of us to band together and stop the partisanship. I think we have to write in candidates. I think voters should be educated enough to learn how to spell their candidate's name. And voting shouldn't be as simple as pulling a lever, and gerrymandering the concept wouldn't even exist. And it would be a very different world. And I think it'd be a much better world. Most people disagree with me, I know, at this stage, but I bet in 50 years more people agree with me than don't. Well, I don't know. I'm tired. I'm hungry. Brain dead. Thanks for joining. Peace, love, happiness. Think different. Think free. Be vigilant. Be defensive. Buy Bitcoin. Just kidding. Not right now. There'll be a great time to buy Bitcoin in a couple of years, I think, but not today. Thanks, everybody. Bye.